Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 14th meeting of the Watertown Board of Education. Mrs. Rinaldi?
Catherine Consalvo. Catherine Katie Consalvo, 53, of Watertown, died Thursday, June 3rd, 2021, at her home, surrounded by her family. She was the wife of Brian Consalvo. Katie was born in Waterbury on October 16, 1967, the daughter of Dan and Betsy Grover Simons of Watertown. She was a graduate of Watertown High School and received her bachelor's degree from Western Connecticut State University. Katie was totally dedicated to her family and her community. She was a familiar face at many sporting events, fundraisers, and school activities. She left her mark on PTOs, Circle of Sports, School Booster Clubs, Project Graduation, and other organizations throughout the town. She did not just help out, but more importantly, she took great responsibility in all her roles to make sure everything ran smoothly and successfully. Among all the roles that Katie played, the most important role was mom. She instilled the importance of family values and education. As a result of her selflessness, her children are following in her footsteps by giving back to the community. Katie was so proud of all the accomplishments made by her children. Besides her parents and her husband of 23 years, Katie leaves a son, Andrew Consalvo, a daughter, Emily Consalvo, a brother, Dan Simons, and his wife, Eve of Virginia, a sister, Diane Bristol, and her husband, Pete of Watertown, and many nieces and nephews. On a personal note, I had the pleasure of calling Katie a friend for over 25 years. Words cannot express the sadness and emptiness that her passing has caused me and so many others lucky enough to call her a friend. Katie was the definition of hard work and dedication. The diligence and heart she put into everything she did was admirable and a role others wanted to follow. Her commitment to the Watertown community inspired me and so many others to want to get involved and give back. The countless volunteer hours and pride that Katie had not only for her town but the people in it has made Watertown a better place. Katie was the sweetest, kindest person I knew. Her smile lit up a room and made everyone feel comfortable and welcomed, no matter the situation. Although she is no longer with us, the legacy that Katie leaves behind will be honored and remembered for years to come. Now I ask for a moment of silence.
Please rise as Mr. Murkowski leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Davidson?
Mr. Flaherty?
Here.
Ms. Hosking? Here. Mr. Murkowski?
Here.
Ms. Rinaldi?
Here.
Ms. Welch?
Here.
Ms. Crotty?
Here.
Ms. Rosa? Ms. Eastman? Here. Mr. Malzweedy?
Here.
And Ms. Lindstrom?
Here. Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Item E, board members should have received the minutes in their Friday packet from the May 24th regular meeting. Do we have a motion to accept?
Yes,
Madam Chair, I move the board approve the minutes from the May 24, 2021 regular meeting of the Watertown Board of Education.
Thank you, Ms. Wilk. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Murkowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Moving on to item F. One of the best parts of being a board member is seeing all the parents and students here with us this evening. We'd like to recognize students for various reasons this evening, and I will turn it over to Dr. Villanueva to get us started.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So our first recognition, entering the military in service for our nation is a deeply personal decision for each of our students. And so it's not uncommon to have students who come from a legacy of family members who have served our country. And other times we have students for the very first time in their families to make this very important decision. And so students discuss their possible career paths with their school counselors beginning in ninth grade, right as they come in. And Watertown High School offers the ASF-BAB, a military placement exam, to any interested students. And then students and families ultimately meet with the recruiters of the student's branch of interest to learn more about the branch's offerings, including a variety of service details and ongoing educational opportunities following active duty. Students commit to a specific branch of service, and then they begin basic training following graduation. Tonight, on behalf of the Board of Education and all of us here in Watertown Public Schools, I would like to recognize 5 very special Watertown High School seniors for their commitment to serve our country in the following military branches. When I call your name, if you could please come on up and stand behind the dais here so that we can honor you and take a photograph as well. Sean Ames, who will be going to the U.S. Air Force. Justin Francis, who will be going to the U.S. Air National Guard. Jose Marin, who will be going to the U.S. Marine Corps. Griffin Relia, who is going to the U.S. Navy. And Joshua Rinaldi, who will be heading to the U.S. Air Force as well. Okay, well, nobody in person today. I'm assuming that they're virtual. Oh, do we have somebody? Okay. Perfect. We are so proud of you, and we thank you for your dedication and love for our country.
First name? First name? John. We're glad you're here. Sometimes we may go to boot camp first and we have to see. So we're really thrilled. It's just a little bit in the center here. We're going to look straight into the middle. Ed. You can come up forward a little bit. Linda, you tell us where to go. Still looking at the center? And then to the right. Thank you again. The next recognition this evening are for the Watertown High School Connecticut High School Fine Arts Award. The Board of Education would like to recognize students from Watertown High School who could receive the Connecticut High School Fine Arts Award. These students must excel in the performing or visual arts and possess the qualities of scholarship and leadership in their respective field. And to tell us about Lindsay? Mrs. Rinaldi.
Lindsay Lombardo. Lindsay Lombardo was awarded the CAS Fine Arts Recognition for Visual Arts. Lindsay has taken and excelled in every course our art department has to offer. Her preferred medium is ceramics, followed by drawing. Lindsay has been an extremely conscientious student for the past 4 years, and art teacher Miss Uracy explained that Lindsay continually seeks feedback about her work so that she can prove it to be its very best. Lindsay has consistently been on the honor roll for the past 4 years, and she was selected for the World Language Honor Society. Outside of school, Lindsay holds a part-time job in the aftercare program at St. Mary Magdalene School, where she assists with homework, completion, and organizing activities for students. Lindsay will attend Central Connecticut State University with a major in psychology and a possible minor in art. Congratulations, Lindsay.
congratulations. Just hang out with us for a minute. All right, and now Mrs. Eastman will share a little information about our next award recipient, Jessie Kay.
Jessie Kay was awarded the Cast Fine Arts Recognition Program for Performing Arts. Jessie has been extensively involved in the WHS Music Department and Theater Program for the past 4 years. He has participated in wind ensemble, jazz band, in the pit band for the school play and musical, and he was elected to the Triad Music Honor Society. Jessie has also served as a member of the stage crew for both the fall play and spring musical for the past 4 years. Outside of school, Jessie has participated in the Boy Scouts since 2008, where he has reached the rank of Senior Patrol Leader. Jessie also holds a part-time job and is gaining experience in computer repair and 3D printing. Jessie will attend the University of Hartford next year with an intended major of acoustical engineering and music.
We're going to have Miss Davidson take a photo. Do you want to up? I know it may seem like a lot of photos, but it's really important to us to mark these occasions. We're very proud of you, and we like to see that we mark the occasion with a photo. And stop hiding. Next are our Middle School Scholar Leader Awards. We'd like to recognize two students from Swift Middle School who received the Connecticut Association of Schools Middle School Scholar Leader Award. Consideration is given to academic success, leadership, active participation in school and community organizations, citizenship, a positive influence on school climate, dependability, responsibility, character, and integrity. Mrs. Hoskins, will you tell us about our first recipient, Olivia Van Dyke?
Olivia is an 8th grader at Swift Middle School and the Vice President of the Swift chapter of the National Junior Honor Society based on her outstanding academic record. She is a member of the Leo Club and has volunteered to spend her time at charitable events like assembling and distributing mugs of hot cocoa to nursing homes. Olivia is also involved in our Swift chorus. Olivia is an avid reader and loves to read dystopian books, including The Maze Runner and The Hunger Games series. Overall, Olivia is a high achiever who works hard and excels in all she does. She is deserving of this prestigious award, and we are very proud of her.
Congratulations, Olivia. Again, you get to hang out with us for a second. And our next, to tell us about our next recipient, Andrew Brown, is Mr. Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where is Andrew Brown? There you are. I'm probably the only one in town who doesn't know you yet because you are a busy, busy young man. Andrew is also an 8th grader at Swift Middle School and member of the Swift chapter of the National Junior Honor Society, based on his outstanding academic record. He's also a member of the Peer Leaders, participates in the Watertown Adolescent Heroes program at Swift, and is a member of the Select Choir. Swift is a big school when you get in there for the first time, and Andrew serves as a liaison to the new students, providing them with tours and helping them become acclimated to the school. I still get lost in it, and I went there for 2 years. Outside of school, Andrew plays on both the hockey and lacrosse travel teams, with his lacrosse team winning the state championship to conclude their season. He is also becoming a pianist. Andrew is very deserving of the Scholar Leader Award. And Andrew, please come up and join Olivia for some well-deserved recognition.
Keeping you guys busy tonight, Ms. Davidson. All right. Congratulations. One thing about recognizing eighth grade students attending SWIFT is that the chances are very good that we will see them here again being recognized throughout their high school career. So great job for doing so well in middle school, and I'm excited to see and hear everything that you do when you enter high school. Moving on to recognition of our amazing student council recognition representative, I'll turn this over to Dr. Villanueva.
All right, I get this lucky job. So Natalie Lindstrom. Each week, we are so lucky to have Miss Natalie Lindstrom share the good news from our school building. Over the course of this year, Natalie has devotedly attended our BOE meetings, rain or shine, virtual or in person. Always bubbly, smiling, that megawatt smile, Natalie happily goes the extra mile to serve her community and her school. So it is not a surprise to hear that Natalie is an exceptionally motivated student. She is an active participant in many aspects of the Watertown High School community. She was selected to serve as the Board of Education student representative this year, and she's also been a 4-year member of Student Council and class officer, a member of the Link Crew, the World Language Honor Society, and the National Honor Society. Natalie is in the top 10% of her graduating class. She's also participated on the Girls Swim and Dive team and the Interact Club, and she was chosen to be an Anti-Defamation League student facilitator just last year. Natalie works as an employee at Watertown Parks and Rec for year-round events and as a summer camp counselor. And most importantly, Natalie is caring, she's friendly, and she is a dedicated student. Natalie, congratulations.
One more. Come on. She's one of us.
all year. Thank you so much.
I just want to add on behalf of the rest of the board that Natalie has had quite a year as a senior and as a Board of Education member. And she did not miss a beat between virtual meetings, in-person meetings, technology issues. She carried herself so beautifully and professionally throughout the entire year. No matter what was going on, no matter what the subject matter of the board's meeting were, her reports were always very thorough, read absolutely beautifully, and really understood what the public wanted to hear about our schools. How you carried yourself on the board, for all of us, exemplifies to us exactly why you were chosen.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful having you be a board member, and I'm excited for the school that you're going to have you on campus, because I know they're going to be very lucky. And you're going to have a huge impact. So thank you for all of your work, through all of your exams and games and weather. You did a fabulous job, and you should be really proud of you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Natalie.
Well,
No, kidding. No, it's just, no. She's near dear dolls.
Absolutely.
Moving on to item G, another really special event, both happy and sad, for our retirees that are leaving our district. For hopefully much more relaxation than the last year provided them. So Dr. Villanueva?
Absolutely, and my piece is very short, but I would like to call upon Principal Laura Mecca, who is principal at John Trumbull School, who is about to present our two next recognitions to two very special retirees who have served the Watertown Public Schools as secretaries for 29 and 30 years. Congratulations to you both.
So thank you so much for having me here this evening. It's a pleasure to speak about two of the most lovely women to ever walk the halls of John Trumbull Primary School. These two women have dedicated 59 years combined, and I'm just absolutely amazed, and I feel so honored to be here tonight speaking with you. Debbie Lapika began working for Watertown Public Schools in 1992 as a kindergarten paraprofessional after Mr. Beauchamp approached her at Baldwin School. He said, "Did you ever think about working here since you're here all the time?" Most people don't know. This is how principals get some of our amazing staff members. She then worked in the writing lab with kindergarten. In 1997, she moved to school secretary, sharing her time between Watertown High School and Griffin School. When Griffin closed, she moved to Polk School as the secretary. In 2016, Debbie transferred to John Trumbull to fill the library clerk position, and we're so grateful that she did. She loves children, and her kindness radiates through to everyone she talks to. Debbie, we wish you a very happy retirement filled with good health and happiness. We know that your grandchildren, Lila, Liv, and Hudson will be so happy to have you at home with them. Debbie, if you don't mind waiting, I want a picture to tweet too, so stay here and then we'll get a picture of Mary too. Mary O'Neill began working in Watertown in 1991 as a computer paraprofessional, and later went on to work both at Griffin and Baldwin schools. In 1997, she transferred to Polk School as a paraprofessional in the computer lab. In 1998, Mary took the position of school secretary at Polk, and later transferred to John Trumbull Primary School in 1999, where she continued her career as school secretary. Mary has been a lovely addition to the JTPS office for the past 22 years. She is extremely kind, generous, and has always gone above and beyond to help our little ones in any way possible. Mary was actually the first secretary I met when bringing my son to preschool on his first day, 18 years ago. I confided in her that I was so nervous, and I still remember what she said to me because this is how she lives. "Don't worry, he'll be fine, and we're here if you need us." Well, Mary was right. He was fine, and when I got hired as the assistant principal, Mary was there for me, and her words proved to be true. Thank you, Mary, for 30 years of service to Watertown Public Schools. We wish you happiness, joy, and much love as you venture into your next full-time job of Gamma. To Brindley, Bryson, Connor, Mackenzie, Carter, and Cody.
One more photo, guys.
I'm smiling. Thank you.
Next with her last report to the board and to the public, our Student Council Representative Natalie Lindstrom.
Polk had their field day last Thursday. Thank you to the hard work of Mr. Lower, Polk's PE teacher, and over 30 Polk families who volunteered. Students enjoyed an amazing day. They had a cookout for lunch and fun activities like tic-tac-toe relay and ladder ball. This little slice of normalcy was so welcome by teachers and students. Last week, Polk was so happy to meet current second graders from John Trumbull, who will be going to Polk next school year. The students had the opportunity to meet their third grade teachers and new classmates. During the visit, students were able to tour the school, meet other key staff members, and hear advice from current third graders. Polk is thrilled to host their Step Up Day this Tuesday, June 15th. In the morning, current third and fourth graders will have the opportunity to meet their teacher and classmates for the 2021-22 school year. Polk is excited to welcome new students, but it is bittersweet as they have to say goodbye to their amazing fifth grade class. Fifth graders visited Swift Middle School last week and will find out their teacher assignments over the summer. Last week, Polk also hosted information sessions and school tours for the parents of the incoming third grade class. Polk staff said it was such a treat to welcome new families and show off the building. Judson, fifth graders traveled to Swift on Wednesday, June 9th for the tour of the building. They all were super excited and learned so much about sixth grade. Thank you to Mrs. Mangione and Miss Lurs for all of your hard work in organizing this special experience. Monday, June 14th is Step Up Day for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Students will spend approximately an hour with their next year's teacher doing fun activities. On Friday, June 11th, Judson celebrated their Serve into Summer reading initiative. On Thursday, June 10th, they had a book swap where students were able to select a pre-loved book to get everyone excited about summer reading. Field Day was held on Friday, June 4th. To say that Judson students were excited is an understatement. Parent volunteers and students had such a great time. Thank you again to Mr. Lower for putting the day together. And thank you to parent volunteers in the PTO for providing popsicles. Parents of incoming third grade students came to an orientation on Wednesday, June 2nd and Thursday, June 3rd. They had the opportunity to chat with Judson staff and tour the school. Swift. Last week, Swift hosted incoming sixth graders from Polk and Judson. They got a complete tour of the school, including classrooms, music and art labs, gym and fitness rooms, and the cafeteria. Students learned where to go upon arrival to Swift, how to find the front office and support staff rooms, where sixth grade classrooms are located, and they even practiced getting snack. They will return in August for another opportunity to look around before officially joining Swift next school year. Parents and families of these fifth graders joined the same evening for an orientation. There is a general overview of the Swift schedule, content classes and unified arts courses, sports and club opportunities, and an introduction to support staff. Parents also got to view pictures of many typical activities and special events that their children will experience as Swift students. Dr. Villanueva joined the orientation with words of welcome for the new Swift Middle School parents. Students. Parents. Okay, parents will also return in August where they will learn more about what happens the first few days of school. The PowerPoint has been posted to Swift's website for families to access. Swift is planning to change their general schedule for the fall so that they can offer a daily intervention and enrichment class for all students. This change will also lengthen classes, giving more time for math instruction, as a new math program will be implemented. Many thanks to the Board of Education for the funding for this program change. Swift looks forward to providing students with both opportunity to fill in learning gaps that may have resulted from the pandemic, as well as establish new learning with this program. WHS. Last week, WHS inducted 35 students into our chapter of the National Honor Society. These students demonstrate excellence in scholarship, leadership, character, and service. We were glad to hold this induction ceremony in person outside with great weather. WHS also held two important recognition events last week, senior awards and scholarships and underclassmen awards. These events recognize the hard work, dedication, intelligence, and efforts of students within the classroom and outside the classroom. WHS is grateful to partner with so many community organizations and families to offer scholarship opportunities and funds to our seniors. Congratulations to spring sports teams for successful seasons, including some state tournament advancements for boys lacrosse, girls softball, and qualifiers for the state open track and field meet. Last week, we held our first graduation rehearsal, and students are getting ready and prepared to march onto the field in procession on June 17th. WHS is pleased to offer a new summer bridge program this summer for incoming ninth graders. This week-long program is for any incoming ninth grader who is interested in learning more about the high school in general, courses and expectations, along with numerous fun activities during the week. And finally, last week, the juniors enjoyed their picnic day at the Farmington Club. It was a relaxing day with wonderful weather for the juniors to enjoy activity in each other's company. Thank you.
For those who would like to, there are snacks outside in the hallway. You're welcome to come back in, or you're welcome to stay. The meetings only get more exciting from here. Moving on to item J in the agenda, we have, item I, the superintendent's recommendations and report.
Thank you. I'll just give it 1 second while the room settles down.
Andrew, congratulations. Good job, Andrew.
Any people remaining that want to move their seats, please feel free to do so.
All right, perfect. So I'll jump right in here with the superintendent's update. The first one is going to be a plug for our Watertown High School. Our Interact Club is holding Karaoke for a Cure, and there's a wonderful video that is circulating right now of a bunch of WHS community and faculty members singing out loud, karaoke style, raising money for cancer research, as well as basically donations that will go to fight cancer for Relay for Life. And so it came out in my update last week, but I will send it around one more time. We're trying to see how much we can raise, and it is quite an entertaining video, so I hope that you all get a chance to watch it. In addition, an update from our technology team. They did a fantastic job putting our summer school website together. It talks about what offerings we have for summer school, as well as some of the resources that our students across all grade levels from pre-K to 12 can access throughout the summer. Okay, and then there have been a number of questions just around reopening next year, and just specifically things like masks and social distancing and things of that nature. So I wanted to just share that most recently, and again, I have calls with the CDC, DPH, and the State Department of Education pretty much every week. All schools in the state of Connecticut were reminded by the CDC, DPH, and Governor's Office that we are to adhere to the current executive order that is in effect until July 20th, 2021. Ultimately, this EO outlines that we must keep masks along with other mitigating strategies until further guidance is provided. So although the governor is continuing to relax restrictions across the state, schools ultimately are being held to a different standard. And again, we have a date, so July 20th, and at that point, there should be more guidance that should come out. And certainly one thing that I've learned over the course of this year and a half is that guidance does come out and things change continuously. However, I do encourage our parent population, as well as any of our faculty, anybody out there, to really advocate for what you believe in, and to share your thoughts about not only our fall reopening, but also about some of the mitigating strategies that are in place due to executive order, and reach out directly to our Commissioner of Education. She does return to emails, and she does read them, as well as to our State Bureau Chief of School Health. His name is John Castanelli, and directly to the Governor Lamont's office. They are receiving and they have requested public input, and so if you are looking to advocate for that, please go ahead and do so. In addition, there is a website, and I'll read it out twice, SDE, actually it's not a website, it's a email address, I'm sorry, sde.arpesser@ct.gov. One more time, sde.arpesser@ct.gov. You can email that address and put your ideas there as well, because they will certainly read those emails as well for ultimately our reopening plans. And then just as a segue, We are looking to get public feedback on our particular district's reopening plan. So we are offering public participation across several platforms. One of them is over the course of the summer and our Board of Ed meetings that are remaining in this year and that start in next year. You can certainly have public comment and participation to come on up and speak here. As well, we have a dedicated website, I keep saying website, we have a dedicated email address for our district's reopening plan. And that email address is reopeningplan@watertownps.org. So you're also welcome to email that address with any of your thoughts on our reopening plan. And I know that it hasn't officially been released yet, and we'll talk a little bit about the timeline tonight. But again, you can email that address anytime. And then in addition to that, this week, a parent survey will be heading out to all of our family members to fill in. So in that respect, that's how we're hoping to get our public input. And as we go through, again, just as guidance continues to shift, we do imagine that our reopening plan drafts will shift as well. So there's going to be little tweaks and adjustments. So just keeping in mind that executive order stays in place until July 20th, and then after that, I do imagine things will probably shift and change. And that is the superintendent's update. Thank you.
Question on the email from the community to the district that you shared.
Yes.
Who will be reading that from the district, and how will the board get to see those emails?
Oh, got it. So that is a email address that I will have access to, and I can certainly forward that on to the Board of Education if you're interested in seeing those.
Yeah. I think it's similar to public comment.
Oh, yes.
So I think it'd be helpful if we got to see those as well.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Dr. Villanueva? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item J, presentation on technology insurance. Mr. Jeff Turner, our Director of Technology, will review and discuss possible use of a technology insurance for a one-to-one technology program for Watertown Public Schools for the upcoming school year. Mr. Turner?
Wonderful. And Jeff, take a moment. I know you're coming out from the back. I can. Do you want Gino to?
Sorry, there's a variable in this. Just want to double check. There we go. Thanks for having me, everybody. We're finishing our first year of a one-to-one program, and I'd like to just go through something I'm seeing through a lot of school districts around us, as well as throughout the country. And that is a small version of what we basically call technology insurance. So I'd like to go through the two steps of that and then just have a conversation about what possibly will be ready for the 21-22 school year, and we'll go from there. So technology insurance itself is just an inexpensive way for us to confirm that any machine that's being handed out in a one-to-one program will be able to be swapped out immediately. And I'll go through those two processes in a second. I want to make sure that when a student who has a working Chromebook or a non-working Chromebook can swap it out at school like we are doing this year and be able to have one immediately as we come back through that day. So an example would be a second grader coming into John Trumbull. They know they have a machine that's not working, and very simply, they just go to the office, we write down what's going on with it, and we hand them another one at that point. So DER comparisons, I took about 15 schools, I was able to get about 12 up there, but the range in a technology insurance plan, which is a yearly plan, goes anywhere from $20 up to $100 from local schools. Region 14, I believe, had the highest. Newtown actually had the lowest at $20. There are two types of insurance that are up there right now, and that is self-insurance and there's third party. With a self-insurance, that means the IT department handles all repairs, handles everything that comes and goes from Chromebooks. Third party allows parents to then sign up for a repair, but has to send it out to get it fixed. And I'm going to go through the pluses and minuses of both of those. So self-insurance itself, the advantages are all the work is done right here. So if a principal has an issue, a parent has an issue, and I see some parents here that I've talked to, we can fix it within 24 hours, and I can have direct contact, which is great. Second to that is also, there's no shipping time. So we don't have to box it up or wait for a box to show up and we have to send it back, and it's all paid for, but there's still time in between. Usually shipping with HP, for example, right now, is usually about 4 days to get the box, send the box back, and the box comes back. So it is a 4-day turnaround time. Most work can be done in that 24 hours that we're working on. And we have a young man that we hired this year who's doing phenomenal work. I have 2 IT guys, Jerry, Tom, and Sean will kick in as well here and there. But we just pick up whatever needs to get done that day. And then finally, it's a lower cost for parents. It really is just whatever we need it to be for that year. So third-party insurance. Teachers and staff do not have to be involved. It can be a parent who calls an 800 number right across the board, takes care of it right there. Secondly, there's a website and an 800 number. Again, doesn't have to contact the teacher, the principal, myself, anybody else. The parts are guaranteed. They are across the board. OEMs, which is original manufacturer parts. Why do we need the insurance? Well, the first year we've had one-to-one, we've been doing self-insurance. And how we've survived the first year with this is we've taken machines that were broken, damaged, or going out of the, what's the best way to say it? The Chrome OS is a consumable. So once you get to a certain level, like we have Chrome bases and we have other machines that have hit Chrome 76, once it hit that, it will not update anymore. And that causes a problem later that we'll get into in a few seconds. Insurance policy also gives you that, it's what insurance says, it gives you that peace of mind. I've had parents this year who have called and said, I want to pay for this, but not having a policy in effect has caused some issues with that as well. And then finally, it's really a low-cost model that you have that will allow parts and anything else to go through during the school year, so that I can always keep up with keyboards, I keep up with screens, things that we're not using parts from damaged machines, but if I start to see an issue, this allows me to get there. How do we support this parts this year? Started, and I have a typo there, I'm very sorry, but August 2020. I don't want to go up to this year already. But approximately 3,200 Chrome devices right now are in the district. And that includes some desktops, it includes the tablets, it includes Chromebooks, everything we have. Second to that is we have a limited number of devices that we keep in every school. John Trumbull, which we just had a bunch of folks here, they keep about 15 machines in their office at all times. So we always have to have enough machines for every staff member and child, plus enough in the ready so that when we have things turned around. Current supply of replacement parts are depleted, as I said earlier. We are starting to get to the point where I call the boneyard. We've taken just about everything I have that's available to us. And then finally, IT staff provided all services. We did not have anything except for HP when they were under warranty in the first year. So everything was done in-house, no cost to anybody else. The impact right now of not having an insurance plan, as I said a few minutes ago, with probably about 20 parents I've talked to who wanted to replace without having this, I cannot literally say that this costs this. Now, when I showed the DIRGs earlier, most schools except for one have some kind of policy. The range is very different between two things, and that range is whether we are going to charge the same price for everything across the board, and or if we charge, I should say if, and then they also have part lists. And I'd like to do a couple recommendations as we go through. So, example for self-insurance for accidental. So, right now, we have that second grader with a Chromebook. Very simply, with that $25, they bring it in, no matter what was said, it's fixable unless it's damaged, where we have an example of one at the middle school where somebody took something and just snapped it. So that kind of thing we don't want and we won't cover, but any kind of, it was in my book bag, it was dropped on the bus, things of that nature would be covered across the board. Right now, my proposal was up to 2 breakages of anything that you have, 2 screens, 2 keyboards, 2 whatever else can go wrong with it. We would cover just about everything across the board. If it's a third party, this is a high example, but I took a company that has it online, and if you did their warranty, if you did the accidental damage, theft, and/or peril, which is it was just broken on purpose, it can be up to $100. Some companies will be down as low as $25, $30, but you still have to go through that situation where the company will say it's not covered because. And as anybody's ever dealt with insurance companies, that will occasionally happen the first or second time you call. And then we get to the end of this, and very simply, why we can't use our hardware technology budget. This is my 6th year in district. In the time I've been here, my hardware line item has stayed the same. I know, Rob, it's gone faster. We've had the same number, $127,000 for 6 years. We have tripled the amount of devices in the system. If you do the math, it's tough to keep up with. So it's one of those deals where the cost of replacing Chromebooks right now, and this is a low estimate right now because they've raised the prices on everything. If I'm replacing 400 Chromebooks as they go out of system and they lose their Chrome OS, which is typically 3 to 5 years, tablets last 3, and most Chromebooks will have a 5-year time frame before they stop updating. It's $100,000 between 400 Chromebooks and licenses that are now up to about $35 a license. 6 years ago, they were $14 each. So they're raising the cost, but we're not keeping up with what we need for a one-to-one. And that's why I'm proposing this tonight. And then what happens if we don't purchase insurance? Device insurance is optional. I want to make sure that's across the board. It would be optional. Repairs for non-insured devices, regardless of the fix that I'm proposing, would be $50 across the board. So having a discussion later on, talking about if a parent doesn't want to pay for it, that's fine. But if they do decide that something breaks, we would have to set a time frame on where we put the limit on where you can sign up for the year. Prorated for anybody who is coming in, going, we would make sure we're prorating across the board or keeping that money so that when they come back to the district. And then finally, replacement devices will be the full cost of the device if it's not accidental damage. That's what I'm proposing. And then finally, with the board's approval in the next month or 2, I'd like to implement a one-to-one insurance plan as a test for the 21-22 school year to see how well that works out, and/or have a discussion in the June or July or August, talking about what other proposals we might have, so that we can have those funds available at all times, so that we can have replacement parts. And all of this will be set up by myself and a few members. I have a couple librarians and a few other staff members that have wants to be involved, and we'll just go through with what you guys pick out and tell me what you'd like to do. And right now, if you have any questions, any thoughts, I can give you some more detail.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm sure board members have questions. I'm going to start us off with, can you talk a little bit, if you're prepared to do so, about the year-to-date repairs that we've done? So if you were to monetize all of the equipment that we had to repair some of those, the ones that came in, what do you think we would have had to have spent, or what did we spend in the last year?
Easily $25,000. Easily.
And that includes the cost of the items we already had, not things you had to purchase.
That would be if I was buying the parts. If
Yep.
I was buying the keyboards, if I was buying the, yes.
Okay.
And that's assuming parts would be available. Right now, a good example of something we ordered in August, I'm still waiting for 3 desktops. A lot of places are being sold out, and they're looking for damaged devices to buy just for this kind of stuff, because they can sell the parts more than the actual device.
Okay. In the beginning of your presentation, you gave an example of a child that had a damaged, whether accident or otherwise, Chromebook, and they would go to the office. Because we are requiring the Chromebook use in the classroom, regardless of whether or not the parent could afford to replace it or pay for the insurance, we would still automatically give that child a replacement to continue their day if we had enough in stock, correct? Okay, so not having insurance and not being able to afford the repairs does not prohibit a student from getting a
Never deny a
Chromebook.
child the right to have a machine in their hand.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to clarify. All right, I'll open it up to questions. Board members have any questions for Mr. Turner? Mr. Makowski?
Thank you. Madam Chair. Mr. Turner, in your research, any idea of what kind of participation rate we could anticipate?
The 4 or 5 schools that were able to give me numbers, they were around the 50 percentile.
And I think that grew over time, is that correct?
And it is a grown program. A lot of parents I've talked to have seen the benefit, and I discussed it with them just to get an idea whether it was worth bringing up. I mean, it's tough times right now, everybody knows that, and I don't want to ask for money, but I also don't want to have that device for a child who accidentally breaks it or somebody punches the book bag and it's in their book bag. At some point, the checks and balances do hit me.
Yeah. Mrs. Rinaldi?
Would we consider, so if the student does do the $25 insurance, but nothing happens, their computer's fine, would we carry it over for them?
That would be a conversation we can have. Hopefully 1 or 2 board members would like to join me as we write that up.
So we're not giving back computers, correct? Everybody's using them, or we give them back? I don't know.
I've sent out 2 emails to parents and to staff. They have the option of keeping it, because handing out 3,200 again would be very difficult. And in most cases, we have a large number of people that are doing summer school, or if they're using the school website or doing other devices where they want to enhance their learning.
Right.
The whole idea is that it's a one-to-one, they keep it, it's their device until they can't use it anymore.
So then when we did drop on our contract, we have to be careful on the time too, so it would
Absolutely.
be year-round or school year.
I would say first day of school until the day before the next school year.
Right, so Mr. Turner, you'd also have some draft operations, just all the operational logistics. We'd bring you a proposal on how so you guys can see what's out there.
All right, going off the $25,000 estimate of what it cost us this year for repairs and replacement, off of the $25 model of insurance per parent, we would need 1,000 families, 1,000 families to take part.
That puts us under the 50 percentile.
Okay. And so, how do you anticipate covering the rest of the expenses if we go over that?
Continue using damaged devices. There's a bunch of examples I could use, but if somebody's screen is broken,
Yep.
it's very hard to hurt a Chromebook, first of all. It's tough. So you really have to put some effort into it. But you can still use the keyboard, you can still use the motherboard, there are things within it. A Chromebook only has a few parts. So really, it's the keyboard, screen, and a few other things, battery occasionally, and inside there's little ribbons that will run. So we'll have people whose monitors aren't working, it's just the ribbon came loose or it needed to be replaced. So some of those things we have extras of, but keyboard and the monitors themselves, very low right now.
Madam Chair, if I may, just more anecdotal, as we develop a policy, just a point of consideration of if we are fortunate enough to, if we were to move forward and have enough funds through the program to cover these repairs and stuff, if there's any funds left over, make sure we have a policy of how to, what we're going to do with that. So, just a point of reference as we get through it, we don't forget, if there's any money left, here's what we're going to do with it, either to Mrs. Rinaldi's point, crediting it to the following year, or whatever we decide is best.
Most schools do carry it over, just so you know, but it would be up to the board and however we set it up to do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Turner or for Dr. Villanueva? All right, great. I look forward to the sample policy and moving forward on something like this.
And I did leave something in your packet as an example, so please take a look at that, and we'll have a discussion later about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Moving on to item K, updates and adjustments to the following policies, our first reading. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Villanueva to go through the small changes that she is requesting on 2 of our policies.
Thank you very much. Okay, so there are 2 minor updates for tonight's first read. First for policy 5060, part of the student series. It's titled Management Plan and Guidelines for Students with Food Allergies, Glycogen Storage Disease, and/or diabetes that comes Ultimately, if you move right there on page 5. So you'll see some red lettering there and a strikeout in blue. And ultimately, we are replacing the specific name of the nurse with the Office of Student Services. The reason we're doing that is there are several people in our special education department who oversee the nursing team who may actually work to coordinate staff training and education, and it wouldn't just be this sole individual. So it's a very small minor change, but I think it would be helpful to that policy. The next adjustment there comes for the 5100R, and it shows up on page 3. So this one you have to actually flip a little bit to the next page. There's a page number.
Back of the third page.
Thank you.
Yep.
And this one, where you see the black italicized lettering, I apologize that it's not highlighted in red here. We will be striking out the words either grade 6, so that the statement reads, the board may choose to request the assessment in grade 7, and then in the next sentence in grade 10. So rather than having the 6 or 7 choice or the 9 or 10 choice, we would just say 7th grade and 10th grade, because that is ultimately how we are operationalizing that in our schools now. And that's when we request those oral health assessments. So again, two minor adjustments, but I think it'll be very helpful just to clarify, and it'll also help reduce questions and phone calls that we get in our nurse's office.
Any questions on the years of the oral health examination or the change to the Department of Student Services from the name of the nurse, the specific nurse? Okay, we'll do our second reading at the next board meeting and have an action item associated to that then. Thank you, Dr. Villanueva. Moving on to item L, items of discussion, the sunsetting of remote learning as of June 30th and virtual learning opportunities in the district.
Great, thank you. So we're going to start with the document there where you have the two blue boxes. I know we've seen it before. But there have been several questions around whether or not we're going to be offering a remote learning option next year by faculty and community members alike. So as mentioned in late April, when this initial guidance was released, the CSDE defined the difference between remote learning and virtual learning. So I am going to just read those two so the definitions are right there. Remote learning means an educational opportunity provided at home or outside of a school building, typically using virtual learning and the location where learning happens. And virtual learning means the provision of instruction by means of one or more internet-based software platforms as part of an in-person or remote learning model. So ultimately, in April, when they issued this, I was anticipating that more guidance would come out, and lo and behold, it did. And so as we were waiting, on May 14th, a consensus statement was released, which was a joint statement by the CEA, AFT, CAVE, CAPS, and the rest of the line. So a lot of acronyms there, but basically the superintendent's group, the local boards of education group, our regional group, even our teachers' union. So in support of the initial guidance that was given. So it's important to note that as of now, we have not received the green light to lift mitigating strategies like quarantine and contact tracing, although we're all waiting with bated breath to hear. But if so, and this is a big if, students do have to remain home for quarantining or they've been contact traced, we would ultimately offer some sort of learning for those kids. Again, this may change depending on guidance. But ultimately, what this is trying to clarify, what I'm trying to get us to clarify tonight is that we will be offering virtual learning to those kids who would be contact traced or quarantined if that was the case. However, voluntary daily access to remote learning at the unilateral request of the student or family would not be something that we offer next year. So then I take us back to the second blue box, and I'll just read the language straight from it, which is, there is no current requirement under Connecticut or federal law that after the period of emergency this school year, that school districts are mandated to provide all students voluntary daily access to remote learning. at the unilateral request of the student's family. And then it continues to go on that the requirement is school districts provide temporary remote learning opportunities for all parents and students, provided in the Adapt, Advance, Achieve, Connecticut's Plan to Learn and Grow Together, and Addendum 1, temporarily opting into voluntary remote learning due to COVID-19, will no longer be in place after this school year. So they've made it pretty clear that they're going to sunset that. And at this time, DPH and CSD do not anticipate the need to mandate due to public health necessity that all school districts provide an option for students and their families to opt into a voluntary remote option after the school year. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I think it's important that we're able to distinguish between those two platforms of learning.
Any questions for Dr. Villanueva on the sunsetting of remote learning? Or on the opportunities for students who may be quarantined?
So if you have one student has to quarantine, they can do remote, not virtual. I mean virtual, not remote.
You got it, exactly. For basically the duration of whatever they're quarantining.
So that the teacher would not have to be.
Exactly, that is correct.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Villanueva. I'm going to make a recommendation to my fellow board members if they agree. I think, given the audience, that perhaps we change the order of the rest of the meeting and open it up for public comment now. We have a couple of more items, 3 more items to go before we get to that, and I sense that it would be better if we do that now for some people who may have. This may be a late night for some. So board members in agreement if we just go to public, which is first round of public participation? Dr. Villanueva? Okay. So we have a first round of public participation. Any member of the public that wishes to address the board this evening, either virtually or remote, please state your name and street address. And for this particular public participation, we will have a second one later in the meeting. We would limit your comments to our reopening plans at this time. So I'd like to first go for the people who are in the room, and then we'll switch to virtual. So if you'd like to speak, you may head on up to the podium, state your name and street address.
Can I take this off while I talk? Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tony Gardino. I live on 297 Bayview Circle in Watertown. I'm here to be a voice for my kids. Chase, who's 11, and Carter, who is 9. I want to believe that you're all here for the right reasons, and I think you are. That is why I'm here urging you to get rid of the mask requirement in the fall reopening plan, which will be laid out very soon. It's time that the measures are proportional to the risks that's posed. You need to have the guts to end the mask mandate, and you need to start at the local level. It has to come from the ground up. You need to take action and stand up for our kids, and not just wait for orders from the state. This is not March of 2020. We are no longer in a state of emergency. You got 3 vaccines and multiple therapeutics. I'm asking you to step up and follow the lead of the other towns that have already said they're going to make it optional. Wolcott, Old Lyme, Southington. The more towns that push back on the governor, he'll start to listen. End these unnecessary and basically unconstitutional mask mandates. And stop holding our schools hostage with their funding, because that's really what this is all about. The schools and the school board should create the policies, not government bureaucrats at the state capitol with significant conflicts of interest. They're very disconnected from the children that they're making these rules for, and they have no reason to be making them. You have the power at the municipal level to say no more masks. The state cannot come out please. The state cannot come out and make you put a mask on a child. They can withhold your fund, right? That's why you gotta be tough. There's school districts around this country that are defying the state orders and making the mask optional. And they're pushing back, and it's working. These extreme mitigation measures are not for our kids. They're not for safety. They're for harm. It's abuse. It's 90 degrees outside. No mask, no fan. Come on, common sense. I'm not gonna sit up here and rattle off all the statistics, because if anybody wants to, there's probably 100 plus of them that show specifically how bad the masks are for kids. And for you guys too, by the way. Instead, I'm gonna share with you my personal experience as a father, okay, with my two kids, and the first-hand harmful effects it has caused. My 9-year-old has come home and gone to the nurse more times than I can count with nosebleeds from these masks because they dry out your nostrils. Terrible headaches coming home multiple times a week, every week. My 11-year-old has been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. Unfortunately, he gets that from his father. But he has been coming home with full-blown panic attacks and gone to the nurse multiple times in a day. Can't concentrate, can't do his work, and it's all because of these masks. Because I'm sitting here staring at you, and I'm getting nervous just looking at you with a mask on. It's disgraceful. He comes home crying, and he says he just wants to be normal. He just wants to have a normal childhood. He knows we did it. You did. These kids aren't. These kids are suffering for no reason. Other than political theater, there's no reason for the masks. And I know I'm not the only one. And my kids aren't the only ones that are suffering from this. There's many stories out there like ours. It's time to get back to the real norm, not a new norm. Give our kids back the freedom that we had. This is America. Everyone in this room, I'm letting you know tonight, you have a moral obligation to protect our kids. Physically, their mental health, and their emotional health. All three matter. Right now, we're failing our children by enforcing these unnecessary and harmful restrictions. And I'm not going to be a part of it anymore. My kids aren't doing it anymore. It's over for us, but not for all of them. I ask you to please look beyond these politics. Get tough. Look beyond the fun. Figure it out. And think of our children's lives and what's really going to matter 20 years from now. Not 1.8 million. It's pennies compared to our kids' lives. If you're really on our side, like so many of you stated, then prove it. Write a plan, make your mask optional, and send it to the state. And let them know where Watertown's at. And I'm going to leave you all with this. In closing, I want you all to stay strong, stay vigilant. We appreciate you. And never give up fighting for our kids. And where we go one, we go all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardino. Do any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening? If you do, please state your name and your street address.
Hello, my name is Victoria Perillo, 15 Pine Court, Oakville. I've been a resident of Oakville for over 20 years. I have 3 kids, 12th grader and almost 9th grader, who went to Watertown Public School for pre-K through to 8th grade, and an almost 2nd grader in JTPS. I have never before spoke at the Board of Education meeting, but wanted to provide my comments for the reopening plan. I believe that there should be 2 main priorities for our schools. educating our children, and doing so safely. My main three areas of concern are quality of education, masking requirements, and COVID immunization. In regards to quality of education, in Connecticut Department of Education reopening related documents, I keep seeing that we have to reimagine education. I hope that part of reimagining is to bring back the actual education of the children. I understand that the last year was unlike any other year, but even before the pandemic started, I've personally watched how level of education has deteriorated over the last few years. There seems to be less focus on students' personal responsibility, very little if any homework, and much lower expectations and standards set for the students, to name a few. 10 years ago, when my now 12th grader was in elementary school, kids had to read 15 to 20 minutes a day of homework. They had extra math homework that took longer than 2 minutes to complete, and parents automatically received DRA progress updates at the beginning, middle, and the end of school year, so that we could gauge how our children were doing compared to average. Today, my first grader isn't required to read at home. It's just encouraged, because they have reading time at school. I know my daughter, she just looks at the pictures at that time. There is no math or any other kind of homework, and DRA progress is not provided at all, because it's not fully indicative of the child's abilities. Lowering the standards for our children's knowledge provides an illusion of smart students. These are the kids who think they know things, but they don't know the basic knowledge. About half of the graduating 8th grade at Swift are in the Junior Honor Society. To be considered to membership, a student must make first honors for 3 consecutive trimesters in 7th and or 8th grade. First honors includes those students who have a GPA of 90 or above in all academic courses: language arts, math, science, social studies, and world language. Students must earn a grade of 85 or above in all courses to receive first honors. They will live in a very smart area of the state to have almost half the 8th graders in the Honor Society. At first glance, what a great achievement. But just because these students have a certain GPA, unfortunately, does not mean they have basic knowledge of math, language arts, and history. I know this because I have an 8th grader in the Junior Honor Society. I urge you to reimagine education for the upcoming year by setting higher expectations for our students and increasing the standards from where they are today, which will provide long-term benefits to our children and our future society. Safely educating our children is just as important as the quality of education. Here are some of the facts are based in science. All teachers and staff who chose to get vaccinated are already fully vaccinated and have been for months. All parents and kids over 12 that wanted to get vaccinated are also vaccinated. Vaccinated people have extremely low chances of getting COVID. The risk of transmission of COVID by children is very low. The risk of severe disease in kids is also very low. Children usually have mild disease. Cloth masks, not KN95, offer very little protection, if any, to students and others around them. I understand that every family situation is different. There are many students and families with underlying medical conditions who are with increased risk of severe illness. But I also believe that masking in school and COVID vaccination should be a personal decision of the families, not the Board of Education and not the Connecticut Department of Education. Allow each family to make their personal decision based on individual needs. Us parents are usually very good at finding ways to keep our children safe without them having to tell us how to do that. We must also remember that some costs might be greater than the perceived benefits. Based on science, the benefit of wearing masks is very small, especially now that the teachers and the staff and parents and some kids are vaccinated. The costs of continuing to wear masks in the classroom are countless. The social aspect of masking, where the children do not see the faces of their friends and their teachers and have a hard time reading others, will have long-term negative effects. Just like anything else, vaccines have benefits and risks. Similar to masks, each individual family should have the right to make the decision based on that family's situation. All 3 of my children have all required vaccines. I myself get a flu shot every single year, as do my husband and my children. I do that because I believe that the benefits of those vaccines outweigh the risks. However, the COVID vaccine was approved with an emergency use authorization. The long-term effects are not known and won't be known for some time. The reality is that kids have more risks from the vaccine than the virus. I ask that the parents are left with the right to make a safety decision of their kids in regards to COVID vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perillo. Any additional members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Please state your name and your street address. Thank you.
My name's Dan Samaro. I'm from 82 Kimberly Lane. I'm not going to come up here and repeat everything that they've already said. You guys have all heard that. I don't have kids myself. I work with children every day. I've seen what the master's doing to them. I teach martial arts. These kids can't breathe like they used to. They're falling out after 5 minutes of cardio. And anybody knows me, trying to think of a nice word. I'm an double snakes when it comes to teaching. All right, I'm hard on these kids. I push them hard. So they can't last 5 minutes. But before this, I had these kids doing cardio for 30 minutes, hardcore. They never lost a tournament under me. They, top level competitors. They're sullen when they come to my class now. They're distant. Like I said, their cardio isn't there anymore. I'm not sure if you guys know. I'm sure one of you guys all got doctorates and stuff over there. All these smart guys out there. I'm sure one of you studied some history, and I know that if you ever look back at history with the sultans that had their concubines, or whatever you want to call them, the women of pleasure, they had them mass for a reason, because it took their identity away, and it took their will to stand up for themselves and to be a person. And that's what's happening to these kids. I see it in my class. Now, I'm the guy that takes the forgotten kids, the little nerds, the little chubby kids, the ones that are picked on, and I change them so that they go back out of my place and they're confident and they don't care what anybody else has to say about them. I'm having a hell of a time doing that. You guys help me out and get rid of these masks, right? Because I don't like to see these kids the way they're coming to my class anymore. So that's why I'm here. Like I said, I don't even have kids myself, but I work with your kids, whoever's brings their kids to my class right there, right? And I love these kids. So, and speaking of that, I'm gonna get out of here because I got 20 students right now that are my assistant instructor, and he's great, but he's not me. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Sam. Any members of the public present wish to address the board this evening? Please state your name and your street address.
I'm Isabel Bogatsova, 15 Glen Court, Victoria's daughter. I just wanted to give a student's point of view on the masking that's happened this year. I think it's very difficult to make connections with the community around you. And I think it really does take away your identity, as previously mentioned, it just has a mental effect on your students, and I think it should really be taken under consideration. Coming from a student myself, I am in 12th grade, and I think it's very important not only to consider the lack of safety that it provides, but the damage that it does on your mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public present wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to virtual. Do any members of the virtual public wish to address the board this evening? You may unmute your microphone and begin speaking with your name and street address. Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, back to L, letter B. Dr. Blumenreiber?
Thank you, and I'm going to call on our facilities manager, Ms. Gina Fiella, who will take us through the next phase that we're at now on our energy rates.
Good evening.
So in your package, you should have received a multi-page document with the latest pricing for electricity. You have NG, you have RDA, you have Titan, and on the bottom, if you look at the front summary page, there's 2 pink lines there. That's what we're currently paying now through Liberty. And we are on contract with them until December 20, I think it's December 26th or 27th. So at this time, because we have a long way to go before December, at this time, I would suggest that we hold off a little bit longer and see where the prices go and stabilize. It's been a little volatile right now. So all these energy companies have agreed to give me a weekly update, so we could strike really quickly when the prices come down a little bit.
So we were actually going to, I'll jump in here. We were actually going to move quickly not too long ago because the rates were looking so good, but we had that spike of heat, and so it immediately impacted the rates. So you can see here, just as Mr. Faila was speaking, NG and Titan are coming in quite competitive, and RDA, which was one of the companies that I had spoken about, that had the educational opportunities connected with them, are coming in a little bit higher. However, Gino is going to continue working with all 3 providers to just see where these rates go. We do have until December, but with that being said as well, either way, any of the 3 companies above is going to give us a little bit of savings from what we had this past year because the rates are better than what we had last year.
Question for either one of you. This was a collaboration with the town of Watertown. So is the town also pausing their contract as well?
I'm sorry, is the town what? I'm sorry?
Pausing their desire to lock in a contract now?
Pausing.
Pausing.
I'm not sure exactly when they're gonna lock in, but I think they're gonna be locking in pretty soon as well.
So we're going to need to lock in together if we do offer the rate. But I did reach out to the town manager today just to let them know that our latest quote was higher than we expected. So he's also aware that we're holding. So when they're ready to go, they'll coordinate with us, and then we'll,
And vice versa.
and vice versa both ways. So we're not ready to go as of yet, so they're not gonna lock in at this point.
I really appreciate, we were ready to vote this evening, and I really appreciate you coming to us and saying, hold off, we might be able to get it lower. Appreciate the diligence on that. Are there any questions for the superintendent or,
Just one quick question. I know you said that that one was a little bit higher, but the educational benefit, but do the educational benefit offset that higher price, or are they still too high?
That's a great question. So we were looking, I asked that exact question, just exactly what the offset of the cost would be for the educational pieces that would come in. Because we would still ultimately pay a type of tuition to have our students engage in those educational pieces, we're not quite washing out at this point. When we get a little bit closer, I think the educational benefits, even if RDA comes in a little bit higher, still outweigh the less expensive one.
anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Coelho. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kowski?
Thank you. Mr. Farrell, thank you. Just to confirm, so this is all usage-based, there's no minimum spend, there's no...
It's all usage-based.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So, when's our next board meeting? What happens if between now and our next board meeting, the price drops? What position does that put the superintendent and the town with? Or in, do we potentially lose out on an opportunity? If I'm understanding that we might not have a motion to approve, should we consider doing something to give her the ability to execute if it's in the best interest? Yeah, we're looking at what $40,000 potential savings based off the rates in here. That's no joke, and I would hate to lose that and then go into a wave.
So my experience with that in business arenas is that you can usually lock in a rate in an email or a verbal rate, and then they know, dealing with municipalities, that they have to wait for the pending approval from the board. So I'm not as concerned, but it's a really valid point. I think because of the overall expense and length of the contract, I'm not sure we can do that
Right,
policy-wise.
that's why I was
Yeah.
just asking.
But I hear you. But I think, can you lock in verbally or through email at least until you have a board meeting?
Approval?
Exactly.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we have flexibility again, don't want, I mean, 40 grand is a pretty good chunk of change, so
Yeah.
we don't want to miss out on something.
So if you feel at any time that that changes and you don't have that flexibility, let us know immediately and maybe we can have a special meeting or make sure we do it at the very next meeting.
Absolutely, and I would notify you immediately
Okay.
if that was the case.
Thank you, Mr. Makowski. All right, moving on to the item C, the 2% non-lapsing fund, unexpended education fund account. As you know, the Board of Education did appeal to the town council in regards to a non-lapsing account. Unfortunately, it was not successful to the town council, but we are, given the situation we've been in with the deficit, we certainly would have reap the benefits of having that non-lapsing account without having to go for such a large appropriation. So Dr. Villanueva has looked at that policy and has something to recommend to us this evening.
Absolutely. So you do have one additional document that was placed outside of your binder today, and it says draft sample only on it. So that'll go in tandem with what is in your packet here, which is a General Assembly file number 121. So the one in your packet ultimately is just to say that I think it was February 2018, which is what's here. They increased the non-lapsing maximum to be 1%, 2%. And then with the draft sample here, you can certainly read through it, but if you flip to section 3, that's the part that was the most interesting to me. And again, this is a resurrection of conversations that you've already had with town council in the past. That ultimately the non-lapsing fund, for the public to know what it's used for, is really only around capital expenditures, if there are big capital expenditures or an improvement plan in place, emergency conditions or replacements to capital items that previously may have been included in capital, so anything building or facilities, things of that nature, and then special education expenses like what we experienced this year. Some other districts also have built in here not only emergency capital lines, but also emergency situations, so like COVID would have fallen under that. Again, this is just a draft, and it is with our attorneys right now for them to give us one specific to Watertown. But it basically lays out just the very few things that any monies that would go into a non-lapsing fund would be used for. Again, it's a 2% cap on what we can actually put in. It would not impact the MBR in any way, because they're only for these three pieces, three types of funds or expenses. And in addition to that, it's not something that, we keep putting in and we never report back on. There's an annual report on how much is going in there. There's always a discussion when things are going to be pulled out of it. And again, we don't actually have years where we have a whole lot of money left over. So I can't imagine putting millions and millions of dollars into the fund.
So on that note, I just want to make sure to recap for board members who have already know this, and then for new board members. So the non-lapsing account would mean any unexpended funds from our budget at the end of the fiscal year would be put into a highly regulated fund that could only be used in emergencies or for capital improvement or something like this pandemic, and unanticipated special education costs, anything like that. So what would end up happening is it would come before the board and to utilize those funds. It wouldn't just be a quick pass-through. In addition to that, when we talk about what's left over at the end of our year, any budgeted funds, in the past, those funds just go back to the town. So even though our budget passed by that amount, even though the taxpayers have their mill rates set by those budgets amount, if there's any left over, it does go back into the town general fund. The school district does not go ahead and start ordering things that we don't need. It doesn't usually, you don't really have that figure until quite late into the next year. So it's never been a huge amount. In some years, it's been as high as $250,000. And other years, it's been as low as $250. So it really does range. The second difference in what we did before, when we went to the town council about this, is we also were talking about budgeting an amount capital improvement in our budget each year. That is a piece that's been removed from the proposal. So we wouldn't be budgeting any amount to go into this reserve, so to speak, fund. It would only be the amount of money that was left over from our original budget amount that we did not use.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I add something to that? So I guess I misunderstood this in the past, but so the extra money that we've had goes to the general fund. So going to them just recently like we did, it's almost like going into, some of that could have been our money to begin with.
Correct. So had we done what we asked for 2 years ago, at this point, we would have had the $214,000 times 2 years, so $428,000, plus any unspent money from those 2 budgeted years. I know one of those 2 years was on the high side. So we would have had at minimum $500,000 so far in that fund.
Correct.
Any other questions, Mr. McCoskey?
Madam Chair, so a non-lapsing account, we are not allowed to have a budget line item to save.
So it's not that we're not allowed, that's just a provision that I think complicates things and it is not as attractive or appealing to, I would say probably town councils or town boards of finance.
So that was gonna be part two because it wasn't very long ago that we were having conversations about the capital improvement fund, right? And the conversation was that, you know, those were technically the responsibility of the town anyway. So we moved some of those things into bonding conversations. I think it might not be a bad idea to revisit and just figure out what this is gonna look like in a very tight budget. The likelihood that we're gonna have anything meaningful to go into a lapsing account is I think it's kind of foolish to even assume it at this point. So we might wanna start having conversations, given what we just went through, to see if there's more of a palette to start looking at this again, and that's all.
Yeah, I agree with Rob. Just as a reminder, and it's a matter of public record, the reason why the town did not want us to have the capital improvement fund in our budget is not because we were budgeting money that could have been spent elsewhere or anything like that. But then when they talked to the state would not guarantee them that those funds would not count against our MVR the following year. The state's never going to guarantee something, even when it's in their statutes. It's not going to guarantee it, and they were really looking for that guarantee at that time. And I do think it's worth revisiting.
And it might be something that we include Senator Berthel, Representative Valletta, to introduce, especially with Senator Berthel being on the Education Committee. Maybe that they can introduce legislation to make that clearer, right? So that it's, we're trying to be fiscally responsible on a lower basis and protect the town. There's no reason to have that held against us, or the risk of it being held against us, and being applied against the MVR down the road.
And when you consider the capital improvements that we need to make between the roofs and the 2 turf fields and everything else, it's really problematic. And I know you're just presenting the non-lapsing, but I think we can all agree it's on everybody's mind to do the capital improvement fund as well. Any questions or comments?
So the next step for this is, once I do get a draft from our attorneys, then we can certainly take a look at that and come back around and have more discussion on it.
Okay, if board members have any comments on the draft prior to that, just feel free to send them to me and I will make sure that Dr. Villanueva gets them. All right, you are busy tonight because we're going right back to you on item M, update on reopening.
I'm lucky because I get to turn the floor over to Ms. Peckety, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and she is going to bring us up to date on where we are with our reopening plan so far.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. As Dr. Villanueva indicated, I'm here to share with you the working draft or actually a high-level view of the working draft of our reopening plan. I think it's kind of been mentioned that we are still awaiting some guidance from the state. We're also continuing to collect input and ideas from various stakeholders. We're working with our administrative team. So this is something that will probably morph and change a little bit as we go on, but we will be certain to keep it up on our website and keep people updated with the changes as they come. So I know that there's a document in your packet, and again, this is a very high-level view of what we're starting to work on. And some of the drivers for what you're going to see in this view tonight are the state guidance, which is fluid and ongoing. We're examining all of our existing areas of focus in our current district improvement plan. We're looking at all of our current needs, and we're trying to predict what we think may happen based upon experience and the data sets that we have now, what we might expect in the fall and moving forward, which is another driver. Already mentioned is the stakeholder input, and then also really looking at everything through an equity-focused lens. We're very committed to making sure that every student gets what they need. That is our ultimate goal. So this first page really is just mostly an introduction that reiterates some of those points that I just made. So Mr. Turner is going to turn to page 2. Dr. Villanueva outlined all of the ways that the public can provide input on our reopening plan, and page 2 kind of details those opportunities, and I believe that they're on our website as well, ways that the public can participate and give input into our plan. The next slide, this one that's up here, oh, actually, Jeff, yeah, right there, thank you. This slide is a repeat from another slide that I shared, I believe, at the last Board of Ed meeting, and it just shows the intersect point between our current school district improvement plan with the Watertown Cares, Learns, and Leads, and how the 5 priorities that we've been given from the state match up and align. So next page is page 4. So what I'd like to do before I actually talk about the content is talk a little bit about how the document is structured. Ultimately, when we put the first draft on the webpage, it's going to be formatted very similarly. So I think it's important to kind of explain how this works, and that might help also when our first draft is put up. So you can see the first piece here is the Watertown Cares, and then underneath the Watertown Cares are the 2 priorities from the state that go along with Watertown Cares. Underneath the priorities, you'll notice that there are a bulleted list of strategies. And those are the ideas that we have so far that we're working to flesh out in the plan. Ultimately, when you see the actual draft of the plan, underneath strategies are very concrete action steps that are all measurable. And then within those action steps, any resources that are necessary to have those action steps to come to fruition are linked into a spreadsheet. So we're starting to align how we might spend the grant money from the state and how we will spend general fund monies and title funds to really align with the priority areas and the areas of focus that we know we need to have to reopen safely next year. The entire plan is built around tiers. So looking at what do we need to do for all children, and then those that are struggling, what are the additional supports that we may need to put into place, so that we're really looking to address every student and every need. So now we'll kind of take a look quickly at each of the areas and what the content is. So Jeff, if you could scroll back up to the red, Watertown Cares. So underneath Watertown Cares, the first priority is the social, emotional, and mental health of students and staff. So in the Tier 1 area, meaning what we will do for all students, is we'll continue with Ruler, which is one of the frameworks that we're using for social emotional learning. We've also applied and been accepted for the DESA pilot, which is a screener that can be used to kind of measure and gauge if there are students that may need more supports. So it's something that will be administered at least 3 times a year, and then we can kind of look at that data, and it helps us to identify any students that might be at risk for mental health needs or may need additional support. And then the other kind of Tier 1 for everybody piece is the trauma-informed teaching. We're looking to adopt that framework for our classrooms. And trauma-informed teaching strategies are more about building a culture in the classroom around acceptance and relationship building, and that is, it's like 6 different tenets that you follow as you set up the culture and climate in your classroom. So we're looking to build that in.
On the other side of it, where we're getting into Tier 2 and Tier 3, SRBI is not listed here, but it does parallel to this, but kind of looking at what supports students might need after we look at data sets. Also, we're looking to partner with some community agencies to provide trauma therapy for kids that may need it coming off of the pandemic. And then underneath all of this is really providing PD for staff. And then another piece of it is providing some strategies and supports for adults, our staff, that may come back and have some needs after the 2 years that we've had. So that is the first priority under Watertown Cares. The second priority is about building safe and healthy schools. And I believe that this is, Jeff, you're making me dizzy. The second priority is underneath Watertown Cares is building safe and healthy schools. And there was a lot of conversation tonight from the community about mask wearing, about some of the mitigation strategies. And that is certainly something that we're constantly looking at to see. You know, we are awaiting the guidelines from the state, but looking at what we can do amongst those guidelines. So that's really fluid, and I feel like after the 20th, hopefully some more information will come out. So this particular part, we're trying to prepare if we need to maintain certain mitigation strategies, what that might look like, if they're lifted, what that might look like. So we're kind of trying to plan for every scenario while we wait to see what's going to come to fruition. So if you scroll up next, Jeff, you can see in the green.
Other one.
Yep, down. Okay, the next area is Watertown Learns, and there are 2 priorities underneath Watertown Learns. And again, looking at it through Tier 1, meaning what are we doing for everybody, and then Tier 2 and 3, how are we going to provide additional supports to students that might need it. So for Tier 1, we're looking to have a common K-12 professional learning community process, and what that is when teachers get together and discuss practice and look at data, and it kind of drives overall your teaching is a job-embedded way for people to look at their own practice and kind of improve that practice. So we're looking to kind of stabilize or align that across K-12. I'm also very happy to report we've talked a lot about math over the past couple of years, and as of the fall, we will have a new core instruction program in math for Swift Middle School, and we will have a new core instruction math program for high school. And our elementary schools will be piloting 2 separate programs, and we will adopt by the end of next year. So we're well on our way with math, and we'll start to look towards the next area that we need to tackle. But we have to have a really strong core program, and I feel like these changes will be very good for us as we move forward.
I feel like we all need to just clap. We've been talking about this for years.
Can you see the smile?
I see the eyes.
I'm happy for the students.
That's so exciting.
So it is very exciting, and I feel like the teachers are happy about it. Like I feel like everybody's kind of like, okay, this is where we need to go and what we need to do. Everybody's kind of on that ship together, so it's exciting to see. As far as tiered instruction, again, next year will be the complete rollout of our SRBI process, and that's where we look at data sets and determine which students may need extra supports, which students may need enrichment, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really where we plan for that differentiation piece. And the rollout for our K-12 process will be starting in the fall. The other thing that we're really looking at as far as strategies in this area is providing academic supports and wraparound services after school as well as in school. So there's been some changes, and I believe that Mary Lou Lurs mentioned it in her report from Swift. There is a new schedule at Swift where there's a period that really is designed to give students what they need. So if they need math intervention, they'll go to math intervention. If they need reading intervention, they'll go to reading intervention. There's a project-based learning area, and that will be fluid. So every 8 weeks, we kind of look at student data and say, where do they need to go? Where do they need to fit in? At the high school, I'm happy to report there's been some courses that are continuing, the academic math, academic reading. So there's another opportunity for some intervention, and we're also hiring a math interventionist at the high school.
Can I ask a question about the SWIFT? Because I'll forget at the end of this. Does that replace the Eagle time where we're dependent upon the children to request for help?
Yep.
Okay, so now,
It is Eagle. It's actually called Eagle.
okay, but the current Eagle as we stand is now going to be this model.
So we made two teams of two, and so Eagle has become one of the 5 core classes at Swift. And that's allowed us to extend the core instruction for reading, math, social studies, and science, and then have an official daily Eagle block. And that where children go during that Eagle block will be dependent on in PLCs and in SRBI and looking at student data and kind of figuring out where they may need.
So it's not a block where the kids who aren't, say, in an intervention are going to be able to do their homework?
No.
It's actual?
There will be
scheduled.
There
That's
is a
fantastic.
schedule, and there will be actual specific activities. That's one of the parts we're fleshing out now, what that those blocks exactly are going to look like. But the first step was to build a schedule where they're there. Now that they're there, we can plan for them.
Lisa, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So the intervention, kind of to Leslie's point, what about the kids who don't need intervention?
Yep.
Will there be some advanced?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there will, and there'll be specific activities and tasks. There'll be a specific focus area for the 8 weeks.
Okay, so.
Similar to student-centered learning?
Yes. And it will rotate, so, you may be in a different place. It's all dependent upon what the students need.
Okay, yeah.
And the language arts and the math sections can be intervention, but there can be also small group in other pockets or areas. So this is something when you sit down as a group at a PLC and you're looking at data sets, you're deciding who needs to go where. Looking at the kids and planning that way versus planning and then fitting the kids in.
Is there going to be a specific number, like a cap on the class size?
Yeah, right now, the way we design the schedule, the class sizes at Swift will be about 2021. And then the Eagle block, there'll be 3 places that they go to versus 2. So they'll be under 20 or 21.
That's excellent.
And then the other thing that we're starting to look into is some after-school programming or high-intensity tutoring, which was a great idea that Dr. Parlato shared and that we've been kind of talking about and looking at some articles and the research around that. So that's another kind of area that we're looking at for some wraparound services for kids that need extra support. And among all of that is a very strong focus on professional development for teachers and for administrators. I have a professional learning calendar that's really planned out, that's kind of figuring out, same thing for teachers, like where do they need to go for their professional learning? So that's also in the works. The next piece is the technology, the second priority area. And Mr. Turner is working on a strategic 3-year plan for the infrastructure, which I won't even touch to know the details of what that entails, but I'm sure he would be happy to share that piece. And he's also taking a look at what platforms and strategies related to technology that we use through the pandemic that might be high leverage that we should continue to use. And then another entry point, Mr. Turner and I have been talking a lot about, if we're going to differentiate for kids, what are the technology tools that will best help us to do that? So that's another kind of lens that we're looking at the technology through. And then the last area is Watertown Leads in blue. And the priority area that's related to that is the community partnerships. And Dr. Villanueva, please feel free if I don't summarize it well, because this is one of the pieces that Dr. Villanueva has been really focusing in on. Again, looking to access stakeholder feedback for our reopening plan and the direction we want our district to go. We're looking to really provide a lot of outreach opportunities to families, to re-engage families and kids back to the school after the pandemic. And we're exploring many community partnerships, including with Lotus Counseling and with CMHA. So we're kind of branching out and looking for community partners also to help provide those supports for our families and students as needed. Anything else there, Dr. V?
No, I think you hit everything on the nose. The main thing is that engagement piece for not just our students, but also for our families. And the way that we will really start to chip away at that engagement is putting more opportunities out there for people to take part in. So it's actually quite exciting. I'm very excited to see where we're heading with that.
I think that there is a lot of excitement for me personally around this plan, and I hope that will be contagious with the other stakeholder groups. I feel like it's a way to kind of have us move forward. The administrators have been great. We've been talking through these ideas at Administrative Council. They've had very rich things to contribute to the discussion and the ideas. And I think that the success of this is going to be contingent on some things that I'm really, in my mind, trying to keep an eye on from my lens, which is making sure that it's clear that anything in our reopening plan fits a need. It's not like we're going to do this and then hopefully it works. It's like, here's our need. How are we going to meet that need? Also picking really high leverage action steps, so I'll be excited to share with you all of the action steps that we ultimately come up with. And then I think that it's going to be really important to support our administrators and our teachers around this work, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that have to take this and put it into action. So supporting them through practical PD and through resources, human resources, and the things that they need to make this come to fruition. June 23rd, the first draft will be on the website, and then we will continue as there are any updates. We'll make sure that that's clear as well.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments, and then we'll open it up to comments and questions. We certainly didn't need the state to tell us these priorities,
Right.
because these have been priorities that we could pull right from the district improvement plan that the entire district was involved in creating. So it's wonderful to see a lot of those pieces coming together. I know you and Dr. Villanueva and the admin team and the rest of the cabinet have done a lot of work just to get us to this point, and I'm really excited. I'm excited for everybody, and particularly the students, that are really going to benefit from these things that we've been talking about for a long time. So thank you. I'd open it up to questions and comments. Cindy?
I'm not even sure if I'm going to articulate this right, but I think I continue to be just impressed about the way that you take the needs of our district, our students, our staff, and develop a plan. You integrate guidance from the state. You develop, you take feedback from our own community, and you seem to really always have your finger on the pulse of what is needed. And I just wanted to say that because I think you really do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Identifying and addressing our needs. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Eastman. Any comments or questions? Mr. Makowski?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I'll second what Ms. Eastman said. You and your team are always doing an awesome job. But I do have two questions. So first, you touched on it really important, which is our staff, right? That's where the rubber meets the road, right? The classroom is where it's at. So I think, and I'm not the educator in the room, I have the pleasure of sitting in between two of them. Osmosis doesn't work, so bear with me. So we know that in-class assessment is part of what you and your team does in the school, in the building administrators. Is there any consideration of trying to do more of that? Because now they're trying to balance making sure the teacher has what they need, making sure that they're supported, but at the same time having a second set of eyes to see what's going on in the classroom, identify students. We have such a huge dynamic that we're facing, the mental, the social, the emotional, and then we add the learning gap that we're trying to add into it. So I'm curious if there's been any conversation about trying to revamp the assessment process in classroom reviews.
Yes, there is a K to 8 common assessment calendar that has multiple data points, and I know that somebody spoke tonight about the DRA. That DRA is still in play, and the expectation is that teachers are sharing the multiple data points with parents when they come in from conference, because one data point doesn't tell a whole story. So right now we have that for K to 8. I've also been working with Dr. Parlato, her team, and with Beth Wolf, who's the SRBI coordinator at the high school, and we've been starting to identify the data sets that we might be able to look at. It's a little bit more tricky in a secondary level because everybody's taking different things, but we're starting to identify where do we start, what data sets do we look at the high school level, at the very least 3 times a year, like benchmarking. Whether that be starting with attendance and grades and then working from there, but that's exactly the conversations that we're having now at the high school, and then we have a rough plan in place for a K-8.
Awesome, thank you. One additional question. So, we love hearing the term state guidance.
Yes.
Right? It's always a fun conversation when that gets thrown in. I would like to hear, as you progress and develop the plan, whether you join us or from Dr. Villanueva, if there's any variations in our thoughts and philosophies as it compares to what the state's saying and how we're kind of melding that, because, education is a local thing.
Right.
The state seems to think it's the state thing. That's a tough conversation for another day. But I want to make sure that we continue to hear from the experts here in Watertown on what you're seeing, what you think you need to do, and how that either interweaves or doesn't with state guidance. So just something for future updates and things like that.
And just a quick response to that, as Mrs. Crotty mentioned, it did work out that the 5 priorities that the state is recommending that we focus on really do fit us and where we were as a district. Thus, that graphic I keep showing that shows the intersect point. What the state doesn't do is tell us what action steps that we can take to achieve those priorities. And I think as the plan progresses and as you're able to see the action steps are where we can customize. So, I mean, no one's going to say that after a pandemic, we don't have to address the social, emotional, and mental health needs of students. But we don't have to address it the same way that another town has to address it. We have to address it in the way that works for us. So that's, I think, hopefully that answers, and I think the stakeholder input is important, and it was good to hear people speak.
Absolutely. I just mentioned it because I also want to make sure that you all feel that you can bring those,
Yes.
don't always feel that state guidance, you got to follow state guidance, right? We want to hear, if you're thinking differently, here are our thoughts, here's why. It's important for us to be hearing from our experts, so thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Excited about math.
Very excited.
Any other questions or comments?
No,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I just have one question to it though. Are we still going to continue the math intervention at the high school though, even with the new program? Or
Yes. So there's still an academic math, there's a section of academic math, and there's a section of academic reading. And we're talking about 2 different kind of ways to run that academic math. One for focusing on the 8th graders moving into 9th grade and really intervening and filling in the pieces of the unfinished learning. And the other is trying to look at some of the students that may need just some extra support to help with core instruction. So that section can be used in a number of different ways. Plus, we're onboarding a math interventionist that can push in, pull out, et cetera. And then the high-intensity tutoring is another piece.
Thank you.
Mr. Flaherty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa, I just want to say that you're standing here representing many people who are working so hard on this. And you are doing them such great justice and this town by the passion and by just the animation you have behind this. You're making our job easier. And I think it takes a lot for me to understand a complicated process, and you've helped me and many understand where we can go and have some confidence in that. And so please, on our behalf, to all the people you work with, thank you. And thank you, Dr. V. And this is very, very helpful, and I'm excited to hear more.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Flaherty. Okay, there are 2 policies that are related to our reopening plan, and those are 5070 and 5015. And Dr. Villanueva is going to walk us through that relation.
Thank you very much, and thank you again, Ms. Flaherty, for bringing us up to speed on all of the exciting things that are happening here. So in your packet, you have 2 little booklets as well as just a printout from a much larger document. The first little booklet there is called Accelerate CT. And if you go in onto the you'll see basically where my pen marks are, little arrows that are there. And it's teeny tiny little print. Oh, sorry.
Everybody a second. It's under the reopening plan section.
Absolutely, yep. And so we'll actually start in on page 5 there for Accelerate CTE.
Everybody got it?
Excellent. And really, other than you have many documents now that you can read before you head to bed, I just wanted to draw
Tonight?
Today, after we're done. Is to draw your eye to a common theme that seems to be cropping up across all of these documents. And again, this has to your point of, yes, state guidance, but also when we notice that there's good things here that can really lead our work, and when we can make a connection to policies that are already in place in our district, it just makes our work move forward even stronger. And so you'll see the words, things like on page 5, intentional analysis of evidence and data. If you turn to page 6 in the highlighted section there, you'll see disaggregating data by demographics. And that is a theme that seems to be coming up across many documents. So we are being asked to disaggregate our data, not only in terms of how our students are achieving and how they're growing, but also just by the demographic subgroups and how they're doing, which is not always something that districts do because sometimes there's limited time, or sometimes it's just not something that's sparked into, but we are really being asked to do so. So with that, we are prioritizing, and I'll get you to turn to page 11, that's the next one. We are prioritizing how that data of our disaggregated subgroups is going to drive our action steps as we move forward. And so you'll see things like words like addressing learning loss among students, including low-income students, children with disabilities, English language learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and children in youth and foster care, or the local education agency, and the list continues to go on. And so they're really asking us to give care to every single one of our students in our school district, even if the population in certain subgroups is smaller than others. If you do take a look at the next little booklet there, they sum it up quite nicely on the inside of the first page, and I've turned it in green there. Just the phrase commitment to equity, and I do want to read that. That it is our collective responsibility to fulfill the priorities outlined on the following page through an equity-focused lens. And so access must be focused on our K-12 population most disproportionately impacted, and I know you guys have heard that phrase before, by COVID-19, including students of color, students with disabilities, English learners, students experiencing homelessness, and that list goes on as I just read it there. So as we do move through our reopening plan, we are going to be looking through that lens of equity focus. In addition, if you take a look at page 4, they've even outlined that 20% of any funding that we are going to receive has to actually be set aside specifically for equity-committed work. And so we would have to show ultimately how we are dedicating that our 20% of those funds are specific to intervention. You heard Ms. Becky speak about how we will be providing those supports. As well as to the academic, social, emotional, and the mental health needs of our students. And so when you hear about our partnerships with Lotus and with CMHA, I'm very excited about that because we can really provide. We have the opportunity to learn about how they are going to do it, but also provide support for some of our students who may have been impacted quite deeply from COVID-19. So if I can then just flip us over to the first policy, 5070, which is actually in the next section of your tab here, is our non-discrimination policy. And so there's actually two sentences that I'd like to draw our eye to. And it ultimately is the second paragraph, and it just starts after third party subject to control of the board. Says the board's prohibition of discrimination and harassment in its educational programs or activities expressly extends to academic, non-academic, and extracurricular activities, including athletics. And of course, the paragraph above that lists all of the ways in which we do not condone discrimination in our schools. And the reason I'm drawing our eye to this is because oftentimes our policies are written in a way where we will not do this, we will not do that. But this is an opportunity for us now to say, we are going to do this. We are going to look at how this data is going to help us increase participation in this area, or how we are going to offer more opportunities to certain kids in certain subgroups over here, how we are going to increase intervention so that we can help impact the list of those ultimately characteristics and descriptions above. So this is a great opportunity just to see how our policies and our real plan are going to be connecting. In addition, the second policy that I've included here is the Safe Schools Climate Policy. And this one is number 5015. You go to page 3, the second page 3, I apologize. The second page 3, and all the way down to the letter G of the law. You'll see in quotations the word school climate. And it just very easily reads, means the quality and character of school life with a particular focus on the quality of the relationships within the school community between and among students and adults. Now that is a nugget, even though it's one little section here of this policy that rings absolutely true for this reopening plan and all the work that we're going to be moving forward. With an emphasis on the social and emotional well-being of our students, families, and faculty in this plan, it's impossible not to ultimately look at the school climate. And so school climate encompasses obviously a whole lot, but ultimately the relationships that we have, the environment that we provide, all of that. So we're looking at all of those things to put our non-discrimination policy, our school climate policy together and make a real statement and theme that runs through our reopening plan. So really, I just wanted to share that with you as just part of the work as we continue this discussion. Tomorrow we have an administrative council meeting, and I'm excited to be with principals again, just to see where each of their buildings can kind of find themselves in all of this work. So June 23rd is coming quickly, and we're excited to show that first draft. And again, I say the word draft because there will be many iterations after that. But if there are any questions around just these two particular policies and how it impacts our reopening plan, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Mikowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we look at these policies, and in the climate that we're in right now across the country, within superintendents, have there been any conversations around the area of divisive concepts and addressing those in policies, in districts that you can enlighten us on?
Sure. So, and how did you say it, Mr. McCarthy? Divisive concepts, okay.
I always say decisive.
No, but you're right, divisive concepts or, maybe I could recoin it as like a controversial issue, things of that nature. Always for a school system, it is ultimately our want and the best practice for us to provide our students with the skills to actually see things through multiple perspectives, to be able to critically analyze something, to be able to understand something based on also the other information they have in their lives as well. So there certainly are policies out there in school districts that might support things like divisive concepts or controversial issues. But I think more importantly, in addition to policy work for our school district is to really kind of state what we're attempting to have our students achieve. And that moves in concert with the policy, but it really has to do with kind of what our philosophy is as a school district. And so what's been really wonderful is just to see even the three themes of Watertown Cares, Watertown Learns, and Watertown Leads. And then for us to be able to kind of flourish on that work is I think going to really set the tone for what our philosophy is going to be. Selfishly, this is exciting to me because, as you know, I'm new. And so now that I've been here for a little while, this is a perfect opportunity really to kind of find a vision that goes along with our current vision, but make it our own again, with me being the new person as part of this work, and moving forward into the long term. So
I kind of went around on your question, but yes, it's ultimately, they do exist.
Okay. One follow-up question, and it's kind of sidebar, but it just jumped out at me because I was looking at 5015. I'm curious, the bullying specifically talks about student attending a school in the same school district. In the age of internet bullying and stuff like that, has there been any districts that you know of that don't isolate it to same school district? Or is there a reason why it has to be same school district?
So that one,
Cyberbullying is addressed separately.
right.
So yep, so cyberbullying is there, so that can definitely come from outside of the school district as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Dr. Villanueva. We have already done N, we're going to move on to item O. Madam Secretary, do you have any communications to report?
No.
Thank you. Back to you, Mrs. Bernardi, as Chair of Curriculum and Instruction. Anything to report?
We are trying to find a date for a curriculum and instruction meeting, which we've had difficulty on kind of getting together, but we are working on that. So.
Hopefully after graduations and school closes and everything else. Okay. And Mrs. Wolf, Policy and Labor? Thank you. Mr. Murkowski, Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So last week, the town council hosted a public meeting in which the voters of the town approved the special appropriation for the district. So we're grateful for the collaboration of the town council did to listen to the information that Dr. Villanueva and her team put together to work with us on the process to get it in front of townspeople. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murkowski. Thank you for your work on that, on our behalf in that arena as well. On behalf of Facilities, PBC, and Operations, Mr. Aiello shared again an extensive report in our board packet on facilities. If you have any questions related to that, please feel free to forward them over to me and I will get your answers for you. And back to you, Mr. Murkowski, for governance and community engagement.
No report at this time.
All right, thank you. I am going to submit a report from the board chair electronically so that we may continue moving this meeting forward, even though I had wonderful things to say about what we've all been through this year. Moving on to item R. Action items, adoption of items to be approved by consent. Consideration to approve the Constellation Energy has been tabled. We will not be voting on that this evening. Moving on to item 2, consideration of the approval to discontinuing offering remote learning to students associated with the COVID-19 pandemic for the 21-22 upcoming school year. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the board discontinue offering remote learning opportunities for students associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, effective with the commencement of the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, Mrs. Rinaldi. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Eastman. Any discussion? I would just like to share how much I appreciate our staff's ability, particularly our faculty, their ability to offer remote learning this past year and a half in a variety of different formats. Starting with only being given a few days' notice for remote learning, all the way to the planning and implementation of a much more structured remote learning opportunity for our students. I am eternally grateful. I know there's been a lot of ups and downs and changes in guidance and plans, but I am extremely grateful for everything that our teachers in particular and their administrators did to make remote learning work to the best possible ability that it could for our students in the district. Do we, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, consideration of the approval of a gift.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board accept the generous donation of a Yamaha trumpet to Watertown High School from Horns for Kids, valued at $600, and that a letter of appreciation be sent to the donor.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item S, do board members have any future agenda items or comments they wish to make at this time?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Maybe if we could just get an update on the fields, I'm just not remember where we're at that. I thought we were gonna be doing something soon, so maybe you know, give us an update on that.
Absolutely. I can have Mr. Fiala circle back. We have been in continuous conversations with the town just about where they are with their capital plan as well. And we haven't actually secured an actual timeline on which they're moving on either. But I can certainly have Mr. Fiala come back right on that.
I just want to say, I was able to see the parade on Sunday. I missed the Swift one, but the high school one, and I just want to say what a great experience it was. I know it wasn't as busy as last year with COVID, and like everybody was a little bit more excited last year, but the kids really did have a good time, and it was exciting for them just to decorate their cars and yell like that. So even if there only was 10 or 12 people on the side of the road, it was fun and exciting for them. So thank you guys all for, both schools for doing that again.
The students really stepped up their car game, their decoration game.
And I have to tell you, I was out, it started at 1, and I have to be out at the spot at 12, I was thinking like the Memorial Day parade.
Right.
I'm like, there's not a soul on Main Street. But more people came out, and it was exciting for them. So just for them to be recognized, they loved it. So thank you.
To Kathy's initial question, could we also get an update? I know they're going to share what they're going to do with the capital improvements, but on where they are with going out for a bond.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item T, our last round of public participation. Any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Go ahead, state your name and your street address.
I'm Esther Capuano. I'm from 41 Franson Road. I had concerns on, I've spoken to a couple parents, and there's quite a bit of data on, concerns of how the school is handling the children going to the nurse, and parents not getting phone calls. So, let's see. I just wrote this down because
Take your time.
data right now, and no one presents it. All right, so there's been nosebleeds, plenty of nosebleeds. John Trumbull did express to parents that this was the worst year of nosebleeds ever. Fainting, we had a child faint twice, okay? And the parent was never notified at all. And she vomited. And was never notified. She was notified by a friend of hers who works in the cafeteria. Sinus infections. Many children getting sinus infections. Anxiety. My daughter, one of them too, has been getting anxiety. I have to rub her head or forehead every night to go to sleep. Every night. This has never happened before. And now every night I'm rubbing her head because she has these chronic headaches. And I'm not the only one. I'm speaking for a lot of parents right now. Children are tired, constantly tired. It's true. My kids come home, they're just drained. The mass just drains them. Dehydration. Yes, the kids have been dehydrated. Even my child, she'll come home, she's like, I ran around in gym, had to run 10 times around the gym with the mask on. Come on. Okay, now this is getting out of hand. With the mask on, she comes home and she's crying, telling me how her and her friends, you guys are the voice for these kids, okay? Please. And then, children are afraid to take their mask off. They are afraid. Because they're children. They're not going to tell you, yes, you guys can say, take off your mask if you have to. No, they will not. They're children. They will not, she'll come home and she's like, I wanted to take it off and I didn't take it off. Children are afraid to take off their masks. Okay. And then no calls from the nurse. I did talk to the nurse. And she said, she's like, which is, I understand, minor things she won't call. But when you're telling me you see 35 plus kids a day, there's exact words, 35 plus kids a day, there's an issue there. 35 plus kids, I would love to know. How do you keep data on how many kids a day go to the nurse every year? What are last year's numbers, this year's numbers? I would love to know how you keep that data. Because apparently, to me, 35 plus kids a day is a lot. I don't understand. And then also, oh yeah, but I do get a phone call that say my daughter is absent. The nurse will call right away. You know, why is your daughter absent? You know, that data is kept. You guys are good at keeping that data, but not the data when my daughter goes to nurse. And then whose liability is that? I would love to know. I would love to know at the end when my daughter's gonna need, you know, attention maybe from a therapist or psychologist or someone because of her anxiety. Whose liability is that? Is that gonna be on your hands? I would love that. I would love to know. And then, and I understand the funding, you're gonna get the funding, but please don't put a price on my children. Please, not on them. They need us to speak up. And like, I don't know the gentleman's name that spoke earlier, but Tony, yes. You know, it's you guys. You guys have the power to step up and say, you know, make a stand and be like, no, this is what's going on. Show them the data. I know, this is what I was told, that you don't know this data. Okay, you don't know this data, but the parents do know this data. Now you know the data and what's going on. And if you need the parents to come speak to you, that spoke to me, I will gladly, they will gladly come and speak to you. Because it's true. This is not something to even play around. Anyways, just please be our voice for our children. And that's it. I know you guys do a wonderful job in Watertown. I was from Pineville. My husband's a Watertown resident all his life. And I was blown away with the way you guys do the schools here and everything. But just please be a voice. And that's it. Thank you.
Just one clarification, if you don't mind. I just want to make sure that we respond to your request of the data. You're looking for the data at John Trumbull for the nurse visits? I know you had said that the nurse. Okay, so we'll get you that information at the next board meeting. If we have it prior to that, is there an email address you want to give me before you leave? We could get that to you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other members of the public wish to address the board? Just state your name and street address, please.
Hi, I'm Jeff Baselli, 41 Chestnut Grove Road in Watertown. My wife and I chose to move to Watertown for a bunch of reasons. We were originally I lived in Thomaston for a while. One of them was the school system. We heard good things about the school system. We knew people who went to Watertown. And for the past 8 years, it's been a great place to live. My two older kids love the school system. They love the teachers. You guys have great teachers. I could name all the ones who they had. My kids, they're great. You guys have great teaching staff. Anyone who I've had contact with in the schools has been great. I have a younger son. My wife and I had our third child last year. He's a COVID baby. But he's a great kid. He just turned 1. He can't walk yet, but he tries to walk. He will never see the inside of Watertown School. Unfortunately, he'll never see the inside of any school in the state because the governor and elected leadership from Hartford thinks it's funny to discriminate against my religion and my faith. As sad as that is, and that's really sad. In this state, in the year 2021, that's really sad. It's not as sad as seeing my two older kids get off a scorching hot school bus. My younger daughter's bangs, sweat stuck to her forehead. My older daughter carrying a book bag and a computer bag, huffing and puffing with something like this strapped to her face. I try and understand, 3 years ago, this wouldn't have been anything. we would have thought stuff like this was crazy 3 years ago. In 2018, 2019, we would have said, no, that's never going to happen. Never going to happen in this kind of country, in this kind of state. But yet, with a disease that's 99.8% survivable, with young kids almost 100% survivable, here we are, sending them to 7 hours a day in school with something like this strapped to their head. I'm a little bit upset, I can tell. My wife told me to calm down, but you're nurses, you're school nurses. I mean, you're the Board of Ed superintendent. Your nurses, up until a few weeks ago, I think, mandated that kids playing outside for their recess have masks on. In 85, 90-degree heat, humidity, sun scorching up ahead. Picture a 5-year-old kid running around, having fun, hiding, talking, screaming, for, 20 minutes. I mean, it could be 5 minutes or something like that. I mean, you guys, you're old, most of you are parents, this is why so many kids are fainting. I mean, it hasn't happened in this state, but overseas, kids have died from having masks on playing outside. It's yeah. And your nurses, your school nurses, mandate that. It's not you, but you're the leaders. We elected you to be the leaders. You're leading our young kids to a bright future. We chose Watertown. As if most people here chose Watertown to live in because we wanted the best for our kids. We wanted to pay your property taxes, do right, be a good, upstanding citizen, and hopefully your kids one day will be as successful, if not more so, than we are. And, this is what you're in school board. You're in charge. This is who you hire. Mandated masks for 4-year-old kids running around outside for half an hour. It is, again, 3 years ago, you would have called me crazy. But in 2021, here we are saying, oh no, you have to. Because if you don't, you might get it. And we don't know. The CDC states this does nothing. The box of masks over there, on the back of it says it does nothing. It states it does nothing for the flu. If it doesn't do anything for the flu, it's not going to do anything for coronavirus. I mean, I'm not talking Spanish here. This is logical, Anyway, I lost track of things, but that's basically the gist of what I wanted to say. I'm disappointed, but we elected you. We voted for all you to be leaders, to lead our kids. Please do the right thing and speak up. Don't wait for Governor Malloy, whatever his name is. If you wait for him, you're going to be following. Be leaders. Lead the way, as those other towns did. I know it might not matter because the governor needs to do his dictator stuff first, but at least if you try and lead the way, at least that's what we put you up to do for the kids. Again, they're just kids. They don't know any better. My younger daughter, she likes the mask strapped to her face as tight as possible because she thinks that's what you like. It's good. She doesn't know enough. Kids can't regulate. They don't know enough to, like I see everyone here do, pop it off a little bit, lift it up, do that. Some of them keep it, don't touch it for hours a day. I've seen the studies where the oxygen level goes from what it should be, 98, 99, 97, it dips down. This can't be healthy. Coming home and taking naps and falling asleep on the bus. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your time. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and your street address.
Jennifer Gay, 85 Straits Turnpike. I have an 11-year-old son and a 9-year-old son, very active in the community. They have plenty of friends here. My 9-year-old was asleep when I arrived home today, completely exhausted. He cries. This is not a crybaby child. My 11-year-old, he has an IEP. When he left Oak School, he was confident. He may have had issues. socially. He could be disruptive. He knows those things about himself. What he doesn't know anymore is his own self-confidence. Pardon me, my voice is cracking. I've seen his grades plummet. He's getting headaches. Every single night, he's got a bloody nose. Every single night. It's out of control. He's asked for the teacher to turn down the lights in the classroom. He can't. He's in the Wings program. There's not many students in that class. I can tell you that. He's not in a classroom with 20 students, 25 students. He's in there with 3 or 4. Okay? He is so overwhelmed with anxiety that he no longer knows how to converse with his teachers. He just wants to stay in that Wings program away from everybody else. When he's not in school, he's amazing. He doesn't wear his mask. I don't make him wear his mask. I'm going to stand above in front of all of you, because you're all wearing your masks right now. But how many of you go out there in the public and take those masks off? Be honest with yourselves. Because I do. I spent the entire summer of 2020 at Quasi. We didn't wear our masks. They spent the entire 2020 in Thunder Martial Arts Academy, and they didn't wear their masks, and they did amazing, and they were growing. And they went back to school, and Dan was here, and he told you, they were no longer able to do longer than 15 minutes of conditioning. When these kids were going to him for an hour every single day during 2020, they didn't catch COVID. They didn't catch COVID in Quasi, surrounded by people. They didn't catch COVID at Lake Compound, surrounded by everybody else. They caught COVID when they had to put a mask on their face every single day. And they had zero results of that. Just a positive result. That was it. They didn't have a fever. They didn't have a headache. They didn't even have a cough. Their 80-year-old grandfather with high blood pressure and diabetes survived it. And he wasn't wearing a mask either. And he made it, and he was fine. But he sees his grandchildren suffering now. Suffering. It's abuse. We are forcing them to not be seen and not be heard. Covering our children, making them not heard out there is no different than hiding women and men who are being abused. It's abuse. Any way you put it. We asked you, as the town of Watertown, to stand outside the box of everybody else. Stand up proud as Watertown leads. And get these masks off our kids' faces. Get them off yours. Know that these kids can do this, and so can you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erica Wozniak, 354 Oak Drive, Watertown. My daughter is 5. She goes to John Trumbull. My daughter also has an IEP because she has a speech problem. My daughter also has anxiety because of the mask. How is she supposed to get speech with a mask on her and the speech teacher? My daughter is excelling, but because at home, we have great speech teachers in John Trumbull. 2 weeks ago, my daughter was picked up from school. She came home completely dehydrated. She threw up twice in Lebanon. She threw up 4 times at home. Now I'm scared, so I called the pediatrician. I'm a mental health worker for the state of Connecticut. I call. She's dehydrated. Everything's fine. There have been 15 suicides from ages 10 to 19 in Connecticut in 2020. That is 15 suicides too many. Most of you up here have kids. What it's like losing a child, I couldn't imagine. I look at my daughter every day. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm a single mom. I do this by myself every day. For ages 0 to 10, well, we'll say 1 to 10 years old, there's been 1 COVID death in Connecticut. Okay? You say these masks help, but who are they helping? They're hurting. You heard everybody from Tony to Jen to Esther. Who are they helping? The box says the mask doesn't help. The mental health aspect of it, I see it, I work with it. People are losing their minds. I can't see any of your facial expressions when I speak to you. What if I want to make friends with you? I don't know if you're smiling at me or grinning at me. I don't wear my mask when I go to the store. My daughter doesn't wear her mask, and she will not be a guinea pig to this vaccine. You don't know what's going to do to her in 5 and 10 years. It's not fair to our kids. There's nothing much else to say because everybody said it all. But when is enough enough? I grew up in Watertown. I'm 37 years old. I left and I came back because I love this town. And I had a conversation with a principal today at John Trumbull, and I said to her, if things don't change, Mrs. Mecca, I want to send my daughter somewhere else because I'm not putting this mask on her in the fall. Her anxiety level, she cries, she doesn't want to go to school. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was 95 degrees last week. I kept her home with me all week. Miss Mecca says, maybe it's a good idea you send her to a private school. I was astounded. I reported that as one of your board of editors today, Mrs. Villa. Okay, Miss V. I pay taxes in this town. Okay, a lot of them. I should never have to look outside this town to send my daughter to a private school. I should never have to worry about, after speaking to her today, is my daughter going to get treated differently tomorrow when she walks into John Trumbull? Is my daughter going to be outnumbered, like, oh, that's her mother who spoke up, or that's her mother who reported it? My daughter shouldn't have to go to a private school. When is enough? I've had enough. We need to unmask these kids and stand up. I'm getting choked up right now, hearing everybody's story. It's not fair. The numbers are down since May 19th, when King Lamont let us take our masks off. The numbers have not risen. Look at Florida. The numbers are low. I don't know why. It's like you see our kids as a dollar sign sometimes. Like I feel like is $1.8 million. Is that like, do we care about the kids or do we care about the money? I don't understand it. The numbers are so low. Take these masks off our kids so they could get back to normal. You've heard from many of us today. We all have the same agenda. Most of you are parents here. Like, we're not, this is not rocket scientists. Please, work for our children. That's why we're here. We will be here for every meeting. We're not here to protest. We're not here to rally and make rah-rah. We're here because we love our kids. It's not fair. I have a 5-year-old who can't wait for school to be over. I did not send my 5-year-old 3 days in a row, like you said, because it's 95 degrees out with a mask. My biggest fear is her collapsing, banging her head on the pavement, and I gotta rush her to the hospital. She's coming home overheated, dehydrated, her face is breaking out at 5 years old because of this stupid thing that doesn't do anything. There's nothing else to say because you heard most of us. It is so sad what this is doing to us. 15 suicides, that's 15 suicides in Connecticut, 2 men due to COVID. There's data from all of us, we could all tell you stories about our family and our home. This is ruining our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to address the board? Any virtual members of the public wish to address the board? Please unmute your microphone if you do. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item U. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, I move that the board go into executive session for a discussion regarding the superintendent of schools contract. Attending the executive session will be Dr. Villanueva, Leslie Crotty, Janelle Wilk, Kathy Rinaldi, Rob Mikowski, Brian Flaherty, Karen Hosking, Cindy Eastman, and myself, Jason Malaguti.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we'll take a brief few-minute recess, and then we will be in executive session.